The following podcast contains spoilers, adult language, and a pretty painful pedicure.
This is a message from the Office of Emergency Preparedness. Due to the recent crisis, we ask that you remain in your homes. Do not attempt to communicate or interact with the creatures, even if they are people you know.
Lock your doors. Bar your windows. The dead are coming. It's time for Aim for the Head, an all Walking Dead universe podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Diana and Steve.
Hi, and welcome back to Aim for the Head podcast. I'm Diana.
And I'm Steve.
This is podcast episode number 296. This week we're going to be discussing the season 1 finale of The Walking Dead Dead City. The episode number is episode 6, title of the episode, Doma Smo. And, so you went first last time. You want me to talk about what I thought about the episode before we get into our points?
Yeah, let's go.
All right.
Although
right.
I think it's interesting that your description was not the series finale of Dead City.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that later in the news section. There's more to come. I liked this episode. I still say that if we're ranking 1 through 6, I still say last week was my favorite episode of the season. I think this was a good season finale. Notice how I didn't say series finale. It was a good season finale. There was a lot of setup for the possibility of a season 2. I could see where they could have just left it and never come back. I can't imagine that with all of the Maggie and Negan lovers out there that this wasn't going to be picked up for a second season. It would have been ridiculous. But yeah, there was some good action. There was some good plot maneuvers. There were some things I had some issues with. This series and this episode in particular was by no means perfect. There were some things we'll probably pick on in a little bit. But ultimately, with this episode and with the whole series so far, I was entertained. Negan's gonna Negan, and he's always engaging and charming to watch. I love Zako, who plays the Croat. He's fantastic. I'm very intrigued by this lady that's playing the Dama. And I think the teenagers can fall off a cliff if they want to, but otherwise, everybody else engaging, cool to watch. I'm interested to see some more stuff. I'm interested enough that should there be a season 2, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, I'll be there watching it. So how about you? What did you think of the season / possible series finale? No, season finale. Sorry, of Doma Smo.
I agree with you. Episode 5 was the best one of the season. And so automatically that means that this was kind of a letdown because it wasn't as good as that one. Oh, you all right?
Yeah. I've got a cold. Don't mind me.
Oh, all right. But I thought this episode was great. It's another quick episode. I think this one clocked in at 43 minutes. And so not a lot to it, I mean, some of the old Walking Dead stuff for season finales, sometimes they would, double them up and they'd be, 62 minutes or 58 minutes or something like that. So
yeah, supersized episode or whatever.
Yeah. And this was just lickety split. And I think the way that it was cut and edited really drives it good, at a good, really, really brisk pace.
Yeah,
there's a lot of quick editing. There's a lot of jumping around, as they're telling. And this is definitely a note for the fear guys of hey, look at that. They're telling multiple stories and advancing the plot in each of them. Huh.
Funny that you can do that. You can do that
possible,
on a zombie show,
right? Yeah. So but yeah, I did. I enjoyed it, and I think like you said, it was this episode, and in more looking back, the season, was it perfect? No, it was not. There are certainly things that my ZA good senses did not think was correct. But it was pretty good and entertaining, and you know, I hate to say it was better than Fear as a reason to watch it, but let's be honest, it's way better than Fear. So, and everything you said too about Negan and Maggie, you know, they're fan favorite characters. The actors are really good. The actors work good together, and that all I thought really shone through. Throughout this, and that when the two of them are on screen, you're just entertained for the most part. So so overall good. There's some things, you know, that we'll bring up when we get to our points. That, you know, like I was telling you before we started, when I watched it the first time, I was like, wow, there's a moment in there that I was just like, this is amazing. And then I watched it again, and I'm kind of like, I'm not sure if that's right. so we'll get to that when we get there. So, but again, good episode. Best one was episode 5.
I agree. I wonder too, like, we were talking before I started recording about, you know, the whole first season, second season stuff and whatever, but I'm wondering too, when Fear the Walking Dead premiered, they had 6 episodes as well, and we were brought to a new place with some new people, and, you know, how I'm trying to think of how I felt at the end of season 1 of Fear, not thinking about any of the, you know, terrible stuff that was to come, but just that in and itself. And I still think if you take those 2 series and put them together, I think there's a different level with this show too, because I know the main characters. We didn't know anyone with Fear. If you were going to be like all in for season 2, you needed to be like, okay, I'm willing to go further with these people that I still don't know very well yet, as opposed to this show, which is I'm willing to go further because I know these characters and they're setting up some situations that I think, if it's done right, will pay off. So, you know, sort of gauging the two together. But yeah, if you compare anything on television to the current stuff on Fear, it's all going to look like, you know, Pulitzer Prize winning work. That's for sure.
I mean, yeah, it's just, you know, Norman Mailer wrote it, you know, it's just amazing. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. It's sad, isn't it?
It is. All right, so let's move on to something that's not sad, and we'll talk about our points about the episode. But before we get into that, let's first discuss what happened on the episode via the episode description. Steve, you're up.
All right. Well, for the last time for this year for Dead City, which, you know, people, I fingers are crossed here. I'm guessing there's going to be a 2.1 sometime, depending on the strike in the future. Yes. But this week's episode is being brought to you by the Doma Yankee Nail Salon and Boutique. Welcome to the Doma Yankee Nail Salon and Boutique, where nails become a fun and energetic form of personal expression. Located in the luxurious King Francis Theater, our talented team is ready to bring your wildest dreams to life. And don't forget to treat yourself to our renowned pedicure, the Doma Surprise. Yes, just sit back and enjoy your favorite old book on a war between cultures and sip on a complimentary brandy. I'm a gin man. I said a complimentary brandy. While the Dama gives you a special pedicure. And what's the surprise? Well, let's just say that the Dama will clip those tootsies much closer than you could ever imagine. Ooh, ooh, ooh. So book your dream nails now at the Dama Yankee Nail Salon and Boutique. Like the Dama always says, come on in and let's make your toes an uneven number.
I'll tell you one thing. That is not a pedicure that I want.
No? I don't know.
I am partial to my appendages and my toes. I need those for balance.
Oh, come on. You could definitely lose one of those little tootsies and you wouldn't even notice.
You know, the one at the end that, you know, this little piggy went
the wee all the way home. Yeah.
I thought I saw somebody on Twitter after the show saying, would it be too much to ask if Herschel just said wee as Maggie was driving him back to the place?
Yeah, right, as he's going home.
Yeah, terrible. Anyway.
Hey, it could have been worse. She could have taken roast beef, you know?
Oh, terrible.
Yeah. All right, so now that the funnies are out of the way, the description that we have is as follows. And again, this is for The Walking Dead Dead City episode 1.6, and the title is Doma Smo, or Schmo. And the description we have is, tensions between Maggie and Negan come to a head, not a toe. Ginny's search continues. Questions arise around Pearlie's path forward. And that is your episode description. So there you go.
Yes.
I think that just perfectly sums it up. I don't even think we really need to do it anymore. Let's just get to the feedback and call it a night.
That's it, folks. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about. Oh wait, you were being sarcastic. I get it.
Hello,
okay.
Have you met me?
A couple times, two times. So cold opening. We literally
do we want to do writer director or?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Let's do that first, and then we'll jump into the show.
Okay. Well, and it's to be real quick because the writer director is the same team as last week. So our writer again is the showrunner and creator Eli Jordan. And so we know all about him because, let's be honest, I think he wrote 5 of the 6 episodes for this season. And again, he wrote, I was on Angela Kang's writing team, so he wrote for the main show several episodes and so on. We talked about him. And then our director, again, we talked about her last week. It's this gal named Ganja Montiero. And her 2 credits on the Walking Dead universe are episodes 5 and 6 of this series. This is her first time in the Walking Dead pool, but she had directed some other notable television. She directed episodes of the show Wednesday on Netflix and also the show The Shy, and then some other things that I didn't recognize. But so she has some directing chops, and again, I didn't have a problem with her at all. I thought she did a pretty good job. Obviously, last week was fantastic. This week, whatever limitations happened this week, it was not because of her direction. It was the writing, if anything, So
yeah,
I got no complaints at all with her as a director. So, and that is your writer and your director.
Yeah, great pace this week. Just questionable in some of the areas, like situationally and writing wise. So, so in the opening, we start right where we left off with the flare being, shot into the air, and we see, Negan, who is calling for Maggie. So I thought that was interesting. So was he was thinking that was a signal from Maggie. I don't know. I don't remember when they were talking about the whole plan, if a flare was going to be part of, if things go bad, we'll find each other later with this or something. But Ginny had it, and she's the one that lit the flare. So I don't know if they had an understanding about, shoot a flare and I'll come find you. But I don't know. But anyway, there's a flare that's shot. He's calling for Maggie, and actually Ginny shows up. And then as he's talking to her, then Maggie shows up, and we get this sort of tense scene with lots of really, really, really great moments. I really loved this opening scene for a couple of the different moments. What did you think of this? Sort of like a confrontation scene in a couple of ways.
Yeah, I did. I liked it too. I thought that to me that the best confrontation was the Ginny Negan stuff.
Oh God, yes.
I mean, this is kind of the beginning of Maggie Rhee Poker Face. Which we get for the next probably 20 minutes, where I mean, and I know you made this note where you're like, not good at lying, and it's just like, it's like, Maggie, you suck at lying. Oh my God, and because she's like, she showed up at the stadium, and hey, you know what I mean?
There was an actual, I wrote it into my notes because there was an actual pause when she says to Negan, I think she just ... wanted to be with you. And I'm oh my God, you
Yeah.
like. First of all, let's talk about this just for a hot second, and say she had all of that time while they're walking through the subway. And yes, there's a lot on her mind. She's thinking about Herschel, but she's also thinking about, damn it, now I've got Ginny with me. What am I going to say?
Right.
And also, not long before that, she sees the liar thing and thinks, oh God, she came from there. She said liar. She's talking about me. Like, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? What am I going to say? I got to come up with something. And that's the best you got?
This is all you came up with, was that sort of stumbling, I am so pulling this out of my butt, approach.
Or would it be helpful? Just be like, she doesn't speak. I have no idea why she's here.
Yeah.
She didn't tell me anything because she doesn't speak. But I just took her along because I didn't want her to be injured. Oh, right. Fake it. She's not good. She's not
well,
good.
It's almost like, you know what she said, like, about, because she does tell Negan that, like, Ginny showed up at the arena and she grabbed her. That's true. It's just that Maggie already knew she was on the island.
Right. She didn't tell him about the dinosaur doll.
No. So, but again, yeah, it was very, very amusing, I thought. But then just when Ginny, like, finally, like, decides to open her yap, and Negan is just like, no. We've been hanging out all these months, and now you want to chat, and basically he tells her, about what happened to her dad. Now, again, Negan doesn't lie, so I'm assuming that is the truth. But did you believe him?
I don't know. I wanted to talk about that because here's the thing. The way he was talking about it with Maggie, he didn't, because later on when Maggie says, I know how hard it was to do what you did. And she's referring to, he basically did the, I don't love you anymore. Like the best way to get rid of a dog is he kicked it so the dog wouldn't run away,
Right.
So I don't know. And like you said, I know Negan doesn't lie, but he also knows the value of a well-placed lie, I don't, like, there's truth in what he said, but he said it in a way, like maybe he didn't mean to kill Jeannie's dad, and that was just a consequence of, because I can't remember, did they say the guys he killed, the magistrate was Jeannie's dad, right?
See, that's what I got out of that the magistrate was her dad, but I don't think they specifically said that. And clearly the marshal didn't know.
Right.
You would think that if the magistrate is some high-ranking person that you would know, oh yeah, she had a daughter and there she is, or whatever. I mean? It's, so I don't know. And in the little bonus featurette on AMC Plus afterwards, Eli Journe talked about this scene, and the way he was talking about it, it was I got the sense that it was the truth, that Negan had to come clean because it was the only way to keep Jenny safe, was to get her to leave,
right,
and not be around him. And not be on the island. And the only way, like you said, the only way to get rid of the dog is you got to hurt it, and you got to make it not want to be there. And so, he did it. And I think what Journe's comment was that, he tells her this knowing that he will probably lose her forever, but it's the only way that he can think of that will get her to be safe. And so he kind of pays that. That bill comes due and he pays it, type thing. So.
I think, excuse me. It was Maggie's reaction, but I had forgotten about, Pearlie's reaction there too. And I noticed it the second time I watched, and that was the thing that really made me go, I wonder if he's telling the truth here. or like the full truth. You know,
Right.
I don't, because I can't imagine that the Negan we know would feel any remorse for the people who were the perpetrators of what happened to Annie, the ones who beat the shit out of her. Now,
Right.
so if Jeannie's dad was one of those people, he doesn't care about him, his family, his dog. He doesn't care. So that's why I thought maybe if they did not say it outright, I was thinking that she was the magistrate's daughter. But again, if that's true, then Pearlie would have known her. And on top of it, if she's the daughter of someone that he killed in that moment there, she should be going back to New Babylon, not to, because that's where she lives.
Right, yeah.
And Pearlie's the kind of guy that would make that happen.
Sure.
He'd be like, hey, one of the things, he's gone. I killed him. He also had this girl with him, and she's from here, and I brought her back. You know what I mean?
She's the magistrate's daughter,
Yeah. So I don't know, unless, I just thought of this too, like, unless in his trying to get away from the people of New Babylon in the, the law and all of that, did he have to kill like some other person somewhere along the line? And it just so happened that was Ginny's dad.
Yeah.
Like some innocent person who just was like, oh, you're on the wanted poster. And he's like, oh, I can't, I'm going to have to kill you, and then come to find out. I mean, that makes more sense because.
Yeah. The way
Because Pearlie not knowing who she is a big plot hole to me.
Yeah. If Negan's telling the truth. But I got the sense the way that Negan described it, that, the dad was part of the group of men that he killed all at once or in one time, right?
Okay.
And if that's the case, then that means the dad was not an innocent bystander. That means the dad took part in the assault.
Yeah. Oh,
and,
God.
So if that's the case, like you said, Negan has no remorse taking that guy out.
Right.
But he feels bad for the kid, because the kid is an innocent victim in all this. She didn't, she has no control over what her dad does or doesn't do, but now she doesn't have a dad.
Yeah.
And like he says, I wrote down that line, when he tells her, you were just a debt that I had to pay. And while that's,
but I feel like that's the part that's the lie. I don't think he feels that way. He clearly cares about her. I mean, maybe there's truth to that. She is a debt to him.
She is, yeah. See, that's what I think. I think he's being truthful, but there's more to it than that.
Yeah, it's more nuanced than just
that. No. Yeah, he spells it out to her again, trying to be as hurtful as he can so she'll leave. He says basically that, look, the only reason I let you hang around is because I felt I had this weird obligation to look after you after I snuffed your dad. And that was, I'm sure, part of what his thinking was. But again, Negan loves kids and wants to, look out for them, protect them, right, as we've seen. And he likes her, and so he, wanted to protect her because of that also. But, again, this is like Eli Jordan said, he says these things because in the moment it's the only thing he has that he knows will get Jenny to go away.
Yeah. So. And it worked.
It did.
He did it it was very effective.
Yes.
He knows how to piss off women really well. He's made it an art form, really.
He is a connoisseur at that. And he did it so well that when Pearlie dropped her off at the bricks, she left Negan's jacket.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't want that thing. Get that away from me. I mean, the look she gives him when Pearlie's like, hey, your jacket. And she kind of flashes this, like, do not mess with me.
Yeah. 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 She's like, I don't want to see your face, and I certainly don't want to see that jacket, because everything is dead to me for sure.
Yes. Yep.
We cut to commercial. We come back to I love your line about this. Pearlie and Ginny, who have they've made it across the Hudson. And how do you feel about that?
Oh, well, there's a lot of fast travel in this episode.
This is just one part of it.
Right. This is the first instance, but I respect the decision where the showrunner and the producers and the director, as they're like laying out this episode, they're like, we don't have time. We don't have time to show any of this stuff, so we're just gonna cut to it and just go, yeah, they made it. Because I mean, literally, they come back from the first break, and Pearlie and Ginny are like already across the river, like pulling the boat up on the shore. I'm like, well, that was easy.
And the second time I watched it, I was like, I think when I watched it last night, I was making my notes and your notes were already in there, and I was like, damn, I didn't want them to influence me, but I saw your note about this, and I was like, they did make it across pretty fast. He's right. But then I was like, and man, did they land in just the right spot?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they didn't just make it across, but like Manhattan is vast, people. It is miles and miles long. And yes, they were coming from Midtown, but it's like I cannot describe to you like how long the shores are on either side of the Hudson. And it's like the fact that they hit dead on to where they wanted to go, and they're not on like a boat or something with an oar
like a piece
that
of
would
pier.
Yeah, they took like some random piece of wood, and they probably paddled with their hands as best they could.
Yeah.
So
and there's no current in the Hudson.
There's no dead either. They were fine. They were just
I told you, they did not have time. Okay, so you just go, yep, they made it. Let's move on. You know what I mean? Yeah. That was what it was. The same thing happens later with Maggie and Herschel.
Right.
That, when they decide it's time to leave Manhattan, snap of your fingers, they are across on the other side of the Hudson in their car.
Yes. You don't even see them pull up like some kind of flotation device. You just have to assume that they didn't swim because they're dry.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's just, and again, which is weird because the episode's only 43 minutes, but still they're like, we are spending no time on this at all.
Yeah. Actually, I think it would have been interesting because ultimately, couldn't Maggie have been like, I got you your man. One of your guys needs to drive me, has to put me in a boat and take me across to the other side. You know what I mean? That would have been an interesting power play to show that, but whatever. Sure, fine. Let's just cut right to being in the front of the car.
Yeah. Again, they're just like, it's just sort of like, you know what? You just got to say, yep, they made it. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So they made it. Then I guess that's fine.
Yeah.
And then we go from there to, we've got Maggie and Negan together. Now it's daylight out, so obviously time has shifted, and they have this nice sort of position watching the main drag to see, if they see any cars. They're up nice and high so that they can keep an eye out. And they do eventually see a car, but before they do, they have this really interesting conversation because Negan looks all, puppy dog sad. Mm-hmm. And that's when Maggie does the whole, like, it must have been hard to say that. And then, before she says anything else that would be considered, man, am I starting to like this guy? She has to tell some affecting story to make him think of her differently, maybe, and like show her, you know what I mean, like some affecting story. And it was this interesting story about when she was younger, and her mom's big dream was to make it to Macy's in Manhattan.
Well, her mom always talked about it.
Yeah, and they saw it on TV because of, like, Santa Claus coming to Macy's, and you get the Thanksgiving parade and all that other stuff, and it's true. Like I've never been in that Macy's, but I've seen it on TV a million times between the parades and the stuff, so I can totally see how that's like an iconic place to go to in New York City. And And that was cool. I'm trying to see. You don't have any notes about that conversation. Didn't like that one, obviously. It didn't hit you.
No, I mean it did. But it was just the beginning of, or the continuation, I should say, of Poker Face Maggie that we get here, in that Negan is starting to kind of smell the rat in the room, and Maggie is, trying, and I should say very badly, to make small talk.
Yeah.
And somehow convince him that no, everything is on the up and up here. Even though they're literally walking right into where the Croat is, and there's no opposition, there's no, it's nothing. And it's just that story was part of it. But I agree with you that I got the sense that because Negan was clearly hurt by telling Jenny to leave, this was Maggie's way of trying to, kind of open up to him and tell him something personal to kind of prove that, you kind of tell him that, see, you're not as bad as you think. Because here I'm telling you this very personal story of mine, that when the first time when you told your story, I basically told you what you could go do with yourself, so. But it was just sort of the beginning of the, like I said, I just called her Maggie Poker Face. So
yeah, no kidding. So they do eventually see a car. Mm-hmm. They then run up to the roof to sort of be able to follow the car and where it's ending up. They spy where it's ending up, and then they head down to the street so that they can follow the car and go to where they saw, or whereabouts they think that the car ended up.
Right.
So they start walking, and let me tell you, they got there fairly fast. And I've walked the streets of Manhattan. Have you?
No, I have not. But I was just gonna say that car drove a long way down that street. I mean, it's like that car's got to be like 10 miles away.
I'm telling you, when I tell you that from where they were. That's the thing, is that they place themselves on the map. By her telling that Macy's story, we know right where they are on the map.
Yep.
From there to where they ended up going, it's literally like the Chicago equivalent of like being at the Sears Tower and then just being like, all right, well, that car stopped maybe a little bit before Wrigley Field. Let's get walking. That's... which that's going to take you all day to walk. It just was nuts. I get it. They probably walk a lot in the apocalypse. So they probably, they walk with like purpose and they move fast, but I don't know. It was a little bit of fast travel for me.
Well, again, they according to the wiki, they start, like you said, they can see that, like, the Macy's store is like across the street from them where they're when they're up high. They go from there all the way to the Staten Island Whitehall terminal.
Oh God.
And that's literally that's like 12 miles or something. And they get there and it's still broad daylight out.
Yep.
So again, more instance of fast travel. And there's no dead. There are no ghouls at all. Right. Now, the road that he was driving on, it looked like the side streets had all been barricaded. So maybe this is a route that group has cleared out and made, kind of a usually an open way to travel. But just the sheer length of time, again, I mean, how long does it take to walk 12 miles? I mean, it's,
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know, man.
Again, It's not as bad as Fear, where they were just crossing Texas, at will, seemingly without any problems. But it was certainly like something that stuck out as like, really, that they're just okay. That's awful far away, but all right, tell your story, go.
I mean, Google Maps says it would take an hour and 20 minutes. But that's with no encumbrances in between, I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, I feel like that would be that'd be a few hours at least, because of all of the stuff they've got in their way. There's no way they're going in a straight line. Probably
you would think,
not.
yeah, you would think not. Plus, are they gonna, they don't want to just race there and then be all pooped out and suddenly have to get into a fight, and are they gonna eat? And I mean, yeah, there's a million things. Again, literally, it's just that they just a decision was made that we don't have time. They just get there.
And it's interesting. You said they didn't run into any dead. They didn't run into anybody. Like nobody. Right. No other people, no other settlements, no other small pockets of people, no other Barazzi, because that they're probably out like policing the streets or doing their thing, and it's like, hello.
Yeah, I know. I mean, and I think that's like when we finally when we literally cut to the chase, right? And they are at the ferry at the terminal, and I think Negan they see the smoke. Right, from that they were trying to find where the smoke was coming from, if you remember at the beginning of the show.
Absolutely.
And Negan kind of looks over at her and goes, "Guess you were right, huh?" And that's really, to me, that's the beginning of like the super poker face by Lauren Cohen, because I mean she just is like, oh God, oh my goodness, I'm a liar.
And it's the beginning of super poker face, and he's starting to be a little more outward in his things are feeling a little convenient now.
Yeah, it's a wow, we're just walking right into this. It's right where you said it was. There's nobody here guarding it. And then doesn't he look at her and he goes, boy, I wonder what Ginny was trying to tell me.
She's like, did she even say anything? I don't remember.
She did. She said so. I think that's when she does I think she just wanted to be with you line.
Yeah, she didn't. Oh God, just terrible. She just did a terrible job there.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's so bad. And so then they get in there and then that's when eventually she pulls the knife and then we get the little showdown between them, which I'm sure for Maggie fans, there was a lot of people screaming at the TV, kill him, kill him, kill him.
Yeah. It's funny because at first I was like, when I first watched it, it was hard to figure out, like, because there's that moment where they both like, oh, he knows that I know, or she knows that I know that she knows. Like they literally had like a 3-second moment of, damn it, these people both know everything pretty much. What do we do? Knives, jump at each other. Like that was the first instinct, was to like lock arms and battle really quickly. And then from there, like it's, he runs away, but it was like, I couldn't tell, like, is he trying to get like away, or, he's still committed to Herschel. At least he seems like it in the aftermath. Yeah. So I don't think he's like trying to get away. He's just trying to like, let Maggie calm down in the moment. And it sucks because like in that moment, Negan's the one who should be pissed, in a lot of ways. And he's more like running for his life.
Right.
And I don't like her motivation. Like she's got to deliver Negan or else she won't get Herschel back. So it's like, why would she try and injure Negan? I don't know. There was like, I liked it, but there's confusion, but I still liked it. I don't know. How did you feel about the whole battle, like the showdown?
Well, I mean, the magical shoulder wound we'll discuss in a minute. Because
I
know we both have thoughts on it.
Yes.
But I gotta be honest. To me, it's really smacked a lot of fan service.
Yes.
That like I was just saying that this was like been building up for so long on this show, ever since Lauren Cohen came back on the damn show. Yeah. I think all of us have been waiting for, when is she gonna, have it out with him. And so while this wasn't the ultimate, death match, it was what this show could come up with. And you're right, because she pulls the knife and it's like she's trying to kill him. I mean, I kind of got that sense, but how does that help her get Herschel back? Because the deal, like you said, is she has to deliver him alive. I mean, they don't want him dead. They want him. And So how does killing, so that didn't really ring true. And, and like you said, Negan was, he was fighting, but he wasn't. He was like fighting to not get killed. He wasn't trying to, even when he knocked her off the platform onto those, very, very convenient soft boxes that she fell on. It was more of, like you said, just like, why don't you just take a minute and calm down and we'll talk this thing through.
Right.
And that's what happens then, because he jumps down there and he puts the knife to her throat, and then she drops her knife and then he drops his knife. And that's when he does that whole thing of like, the Croat never took your grain. He just took your kid. And he was never coming back to take the rest. He wanted me, and then he's like, it's like the moment where he's like putting it all together. And again, it's right at that moment that the Croat shows up.
Yeah.
And we have, we're on to the next bit, but we do have the magical shoulder wound that, I first of all, I thought it was completely unnecessary for this. She didn't have to stab him. She could have taken some swings at him, and then he could have knocked her off the ledge and the fight would have still worked, right?
Why didn't she punch him in the hand where he already has the injury? If they wanted him to have some kind of moment where he's like, and yell like that, all she had to do is like take his hand and like dig her finger in or do something, like press on his, because he got all that glass in his hand. His hand hurts. No longer than like a day or so ago, he was in a lot of pain with that hand.
He was.
So
now he did have Luther's none of your beeswax, but
it's true. Which can be a miracle worker, but it all depends on when you put it on. If you apply it before you kill Luther, it works better. If you put it on after you kill Luther, it just doesn't have the same kind of magical properties.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Right. So what we're saying is he killed him, so it didn't work as well. She should have just like leaned into that. That's something that's like fighting 101. Someone you're fighting, if they have like an injury on their knee or whatever, you always see that in TV shows where they like lean into that. Don't give them a stupid injury like this, a stabbing injury, no less.
Right.
That like 10 minutes later, there's no evidence it was even there.
And she stabs him pretty good. It's it's not quite Daryl Dixon getting the knife to the carotid artery in his leg or the femoral artery in his leg. But it was deep. That knife was in his shoulder a good, inch or two at least. And not only when he pulls it out is there no blood, but for the rest of the episode he is just, he's fine.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Yeah. I hate that. I hate the flesh wound that shouldn't in any other circumstance be a flesh wound.
Right. Ugh. Well, and then like I said, I don't even think that the fight didn't even need that beat. Right. They could have, she could have swung at him with the knife and tried to stab him a couple times, and then he kicks her off the ledge, and it would have worked. Yeah. It would have still been just the same. And ultimately, that's what kind of happened anyway, because like we said, the knife wound did nothing. He was never in any pain or needed to have it looked at or anything. Yeah. So, yeah. But we do get, I did like that moment when it's after he's on she gets kicked off and then he comes down there and he is looking at her and he basically says, the fact is, Maggie, it doesn't matter what excuses I give you or how many apologies I offer. You can't get over it. And then he stops and then he goes, and you shouldn't. And I think that line, that's kind of the beginning of Lauren Cohen's, what I thought was a really, at the first time I saw it, I thought it was a great performance. And it's all physical. She doesn't have any lines, but it's just the expressions on her face. Because that line really, I think it landed on Maggie. That and Eli Jorne said something at the end that I thought was interesting, and that is, it's not so much that Maggie now likes Negan or forgives him. It's just that Maggie is kind of realizing for the first time, or one of the first times, that Negan is not the guy she thought he was. Like, not
Right.
the black and white villain, right? It's gray. There's a lot of gray. And
Right.
things we've been saying, and Negan has been saying throughout the show, which is, how many husbands and fathers have you killed? And, you tell me you never did anything you had to apologize for. All those things that I've been saying too, which is like, look, Maggie's done just as many despicable things as he has to survive because she's a survivor. And
Right.
the difference is that it's supremely personal to her in this case. But at the same time, I think she's that when he said that line, that was kind of the moment where she went, oh crap, he's not the monster at the end of the book entirely.
Right. And it's the first time he's ever said anything like that. He's always been like, you hate me and I get it. Or, or, we're never gonna be best buds or anything. And I get it. There's like a level of like, when people talk to you that way, when they're like, I understand how you feel or whatever. And sometimes they mean that and sometimes they don't. So I've always gotten that sort of feeling whenever Negan talked that way. But this was him in the moment he was making that realization where he's like, she's never gonna feel like she's never gonna be okay with what he did in any way. And he's admitting that she shouldn't.
Right.
I think the best part too is that he wasn't in any position there for Maggie to do anything for him. He understands what's going to happen here. He's going to be offered up to the Croat, and he knows it. And he'll have a hand in saving Herschel, and that'll be good. And he'll feel good about that. But he doesn't stand to gain anything by saying what he said to Maggie, other than maybe she'll see him in a different light. But that wasn't his motivation for saying it. It felt so heartfelt. And I think that's why that line and that connection that he had with her in that moment landed better than any of the stuff that we saw in like the final season of Walking Dead. That was a lot of like lip service that he was paying to her that I don't think landed the same way. This felt different. It felt more grounded and more truthful, just very truthful from him.
So then, when the Croat shows up, then, like I was saying, then you get this sequence where they're taking Negan into where Herschel is. Herschel's in some bank vault somewhere.
Weird.
But I mean, the whole time, Maggie has like this look on her face, like someone just, killed her puppy dog. I mean, she is just so like torn, like she knows that this is not right and she shouldn't be doing this. And it's amazing. Like I said, I really think Lauren Cohen did a really good job with it because you can't ignore it. It's there. It takes up, even though the Croat's talking and doing his amazing performance of that character, you're just focused on her.
Yeah.
And you're almost like, oh my God, is she gonna turn the tables and they're gonna fight their way out of this? And you know what I mean? And it was great. But then when I watched it the second time, and I obviously knew what was going to happen because I'd already seen it once, I kind of got the sense of, is it too much? This is Negan. This is the guy that brutally killed her husband. And is this reaction she's giving, is it too intense? I mean, I could see her having like definitely some regret of like, oh, this is not, not right.
Right.
But at the same time, Negan's got it coming. You know what I mean? Did you get that sense at all that maybe it was a little too much of her? Like, what do they say? The woman doth protest too much.
I think too. She's also got she knows what she did, and she was underhanded in the way she handled this whole situation with him. And he even says so. If you had been truthful with me, we could have done this together.
Yeah, we make a kick-ass team and all that stuff. Yeah.
But I think she also is bearing some guilt for Ginny as well, because her lie made Ginny want to come to Negan to let him know that Maggie wasn't truthful, and it severed the Negan relationship with Ginny for probably, the foreseeable future, if not for forever. So I think
at least through season 2.
Yeah, exactly. At least until she starts working with a speech therapist and is able to really talk out how she feels, right? I think Maggie's got like different levels of guilt that she's working on, because there's what she did, but she's seeing that her stuff had these, this extra reach,
these unintended consequences.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think you can apply that to Negan. In the moment, Negan was making a statement about, I'm in charge and you guys are going to produce for me. You resisted. You tried to kill my people. I have to make an example. I'm going to make this an example. I'm picking this guy. I didn't mean to. It was literally eeny, meeny, miny, moe. And it's going to be this guy. And sorry, Kudlitz was eeny, meeny, miny, moe. But
right. Remember, it's Daryl.
But the consequences were, we'll just do the one. To be fair, I should kill a bunch of yous, but because you killed a bunch of my guys, but I'm just going to kill this one guy, and then they break the rules, and he has to do what he did. Now he knows the consequences of what he did to Abraham and Glenn had these far-reaching circumstances that killed all of his people, most of them.
Oh, yeah.
And also, it ruined the sanctuary. It changed everything. It made everything go away. And here's Maggie in this moment where she thought she's doing the right thing. Negan doesn't deserve anything, but, Ginny is the unintended consequence. Ginny didn't deserve what just happened, and she was right there to see it happen. And it was so devastating. And so she's carrying that with her, and it's making her think about the Ginny thing. Also, all the other stuff that Negan's been saying, like, you've never killed a husband, you've never killed a father, you've never killed a son of some, you know what I mean? Like, so she's weighing all of those things, and it's also, she's deciding, like, those things are terrible. I still want to get my son, though. So, but I'm going to feel terrible about them. There's all these different things that are giving me this guilt trip. It's not going to change my tack, but it's going to make me feel terrible, and it's going to show on my face.
she's definitely, rethinking about do the ends justify the means here,
exactly.
She's getting what she kind of wanted, which is, and you have to guess that she doesn't really know what the Croat wants to do to Negan, and based on what Negan said, she's probably thinking, oh yeah, he's going to totally kill him. Right.
Yeah.
And so she's thinking, this is justice for her husband, and that's good. That's right. That's fair. But like you said, there's all of these other victims that are kind of caught in the middle that had nothing to do with anything, that are going to be hurt for it. Yeah. Again, I think the way she played that scene where she just, literally looks like, she's just physically in pain.
Right.
As they're getting closer to that bank and so on. It's just, I thought it was really great. I just was a little worried that it might have been almost too much, when it's just for Negan. But I think, what you said, when you're equating the other people involved in this, Herschel and Ginny and so on, that it wasn't just, a tear for Negan. It was, a tear for kind of everybody that kind of got screwed over in this deal.
Right. And I think too, I forget what I was going to say, so I'll jump to my next point. Duh.
Well, I was going to say that we find out that Jerome survived the sanctuary, and my question is, who the hell is Jerome?
I did the same thing. The first time around, I was like, I think the first time I watched it, I didn't have the closed captioning on. It doesn't work as well when you play it like through the app, cast it to your television, and do all of that. The closed captioning doesn't catch up very well. Sometimes it lags behind, if at all. But I watched my DVR copy last night, and the closed captioning is perfect. So the first time around, I was like, what did he say there? You know, because of his accent. He's talking about Jerome. And I could have sworn he said Jerome later. And I was like, who is Jerome? I don't understand. I was like, whatever. It's not important. Because whatever. There's something important going on here. Then when I watched it the second time last night and I had the closed captioning on, and they were like, da-da-da-da, yeah, you know, we did this. And when he's recounting, you know, going up and down the coast and seeing the sanctuary or whatever, he's like, I ran into Jerome on the mainland. I'm like, who the fuck is Jerome? And so I had to look it up. And I looked in the Walking Dead Wikipedia, because they have a Wikia that's just for Dead City. And honestly, the only thing they do is there's nothing known, and he's only mentioned in Dead City. So we just have to assume that they came up with some other guy who was like a captain, like a you know, like a Jared or a Simon or something like that, or a, you know, Croat, who had like a certain amount of people he was in charge of, and he either fled or something, like he left.
Somehow he survived the Savior War, and was one of the few saviors who did not try and integrate into the other three communities and just like went his own way. Kind of did a Emilio Austin, kind of a Dwight. Yeah.
I thought that the second time I was like, Jerome? Yeah. And then before I started looking him up, I was like, I was thinking about all the people we knew who were like the captains, like the dude, you know, Gavin. I'm sorry, I said Jared. I meant Gavin. Like Gavin is the one who went to the kingdom that first time and all that. And I'm like, okay, there was Gavin. There was like one other dude. There was, you know, Simon, and you know, we're learning like the Croat had some sort of responsibility. I'm like, and you know, there was Arat, and I'm like, what is happening here? Like, there's some guy that we just never met. So, you know, he must have been at least slightly ranked enough that, like, you know, the Croat would remember him, and that he had some sort of privileges. So he must have been an enforcer of some kind. I mean, and I'm okay with it. It's just funny. It's like they picked a name that just made me go, Jerome, really?
Every time I heard it, and actually the Croat mentioned him in like episode 1 or episode 2. So this is the second time in the show that he's brought him up. But every time I hear it, my brain always goes to the Prince movie Purple Rain. And, you know, one of the guys in Morris Day's band is Jerome. And he's the guy who brings the mirror out and stuff. And so I'm thinking, like, that guy survived and was living at the sanctuary? Weird. But then I think Negan is such a vain SOB. He would like that guy to be there and be like, yeah, man, you bring all my stuff around and you have the mirror handy and all that stuff. So, yeah, it was... God. But I did the same thing, and I looked it up on the wiki too, and I'm like, okay, good. He wasn't the character on the show I should have remembered.
No, it's just like some sort of, you know, creation, because you had to have somebody who would let him know about the widow. Right. So I thought that was interesting. I didn't really have a problem with it. It was just the use of the name, and I was like, should I know Jerome? I don't remember Jerome. And you always make fun of me that I remember all these crazy character names. Like, dude, Gavin just came right out of the butt. Like, I had no idea where that came from. I'm like, oh, Gavin. Yeah, that's what his name was. But it's like...
Okay, just a little, people, for all you listening out there, just a peek inside to see how you make the sausage. I will tell Diana, I'll be like... Do you remember this guy from like season 4 and he did this thing? And she's like immediately, that's Bill. And I'll be like, yeah, okay. And I have no clue. I can barely remember, you know, what he looks like. But she's like, all right, that's Bill. Yeah, he lived 5 episodes and died in episode 5.7. And I'll just be like,
all right,
what?
I'm not that encyclopedic. I have a decent memory for
you are the Rain Man of The Walking Dead. I mean, it's just, you know, she'll be like, Wapner sucks. I mean, it's amazing.
Listen, if they had mentioned Wapner by name on Walking Dead, I would remember.
You would have
because that's the thing. There's plenty of people that are in the background, but as soon as someone is mentioned by name, I'm like, oh, okay, that's this person. Plus, I have a podcast. I've got to remember all these names because we talk about stuff and you make notes, and I got to be able to differentiate between Gavin and Simon and Jerome.
It is a completely unmarketable skill, and I'm jealous.
Yes, it is very unmarketable. In fact, it's painful sometimes. The amount of knowledge that's just sitting in my head that I don't need for anything other than trivia, sitting
recreational
around
activities,
recreational trivia when we're sitting at a bar somewhere.
Right. That's the only time it comes in handy. Yeah.
Podcast and dinner time conversation when we go out to dinner. That's about it. So yeah, that's my superpower. So we get this great conversation in an ambulance, which I thought is fantastic. And then we sort of pivot from there. They're on their way to bring Negan to wherever they have Herschel. And
again, it's some bank.
Yeah. And I thought that was really interesting because it's probably, they don't show us exactly where they had him, but you have to assume they had him in some kind of safe, right?
It's like the vault. Yeah. I mean, they're back in the area where all the safe deposit boxes are. I mean, it's I certainly got the sense that they were keeping him in the vault, down in the lower level of that building. Sure. Which makes sense. You can't get out.
Yeah. It was a really interesting scene, that handoff. I liked the I was like, well, when is it going to be like an even exchange? And I love how Maggie's like, how do we do this? And I'm like, thank you, Maggie. I would ask the same question. How do you do this when you get there? So they just like did the actual literal even exchange. Negan walks forward and so does Herschel. They literally pass each other. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, say something to the kid, say something to the kid, say something to the kid for Negan. And he's like, good to see you, kid. And I'm like, yes. So I thought that was really interesting. And then just Maggie's reaction, just fantastic.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was great. The way she she had that like dead puppy dog look. And then when she sees Herschel, there's this like look of relief.
Yeah.
On
that he's
in
face. One piece.
Yeah. That this crazy psycho guy did not kill him, which was kind of her fear throughout all of this, that she's going to go through all this crap and the kid was already dead. And then I did like too when, I think it's right after she goes, how do we do this? And the Croat tells that, it kind of has that moment where he's like, when I first saw Negan all by himself on the catwalk, I thought, wow, I'll get Negan and the boy.
Yeah.
And Maggie kind of gives this like, oh no look on her face of like, are they gonna, is he gonna, is the deal gonna go down twisted now? And then the Croat just kind of shrugs it off and goes, no, this is, Negan's enough. It's good. It's good. You know what I mean? And kind of takes you away from that danger zone. But there is kind of that moment where Maggie and the audience watching is like, is this going to go bad now? Is the Croat going to renege on the deal and try and keep both of them? And from a plot standpoint, the way my brain works, I'm like, oh, okay, so that's how Maggie and Negan are going to team up again now because they have to work together to get out of here, And no, it didn't happen that way. And then it went from there, and she gets the kid, and then like we said, I think when they come back from the commercial break, she has magically crossed the Hudson and is in their car, and they're ready to head back to the bricks. So yeah. But an amazing sequence. Probably the coolest moment in the whole show was the fight and then leading up to the bank with the exchange, I thought.
Yeah. I liked too Negan's sort of quiet acceptance the entire time he's in the ambulance. Because first it's like the Croat is just like, he cannot stop talking about how excited he is and this is going to go so great and da-da-da-da. And then afterwards, when it becomes clear that it's not the Croat that wants Negan, but it's Dama that does.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just sort of quietly accepting, this isn't at all what I thought it would be, you know. And like you were saying, our expectations were the possibility of the Croat just killing him, you know. He gets his revenge. Maggie sort of through the Croat gets her revenge, like, and that's that. But him being taken to somebody else for some other purpose, which we don't even know what that is yet, is not what any of us were expecting, least of all him. And he just sort of like quietly sits there. And I think too, like his reaction to, you know, the Croat telling these stories too, where he's just like, wasn't that amazing? And he's like, yeah, it was something, you know. And it's like he sees all of the dirtiness and the ugliness of what the sanctuary was. But there's nothing he can do about it. You know, he can't change the past, but he's trying to move forward, and the Croat is still living in that past, in that sanctuary past, where it's like killing someone with a bat was like, oh my God, it gave me such a rush. Isn't it amazing? And he's like, it's amazing. Mm-hmm. But it was just such a great dichotomy between the way the two of them were reacting, how the Croat was so excited to see him, and Negan was like anything but excited to be in that ambulance. So it's like, I would rather be anywhere else right now, for sure.
Right. Right.
So before we get to that, sort of like that final scene where he is like with the Dama, there's a couple of other scenes that I want to talk about. And I know we've got, you know, Maggie and Herschel, and they're sort of, when they get back to where they're going to, they've got their scene together post him being saved, and then another scene later, an important one, back at, you know, quote unquote home. But I don't want to jump over. We get a great scene after he drops off Ginny. We get Pearlie going back to his settlement at New Babylon, and it's a really short scene, and it's just him recounting his, I'm using air quotes here, story of what happened. And he's lying. He's saying that Negan's dead, that he had to kill him.
Yep.
You know, and they're expressing their disappointment by saying, oh, you know, it would have been nice to put him up as an example, because they've got those bodies that they hang right outside their, you know, town limits. Pretty gruesome. But yeah, it's this really, really tense scene, and just that moment when she's like, how are your daughters doing? And I was like, oh no. And I made the note where I was like, surprise, these people suck too.
Yeah. My note was, so the leaders of New Babylon are all douchebags, you know. But I know we got some feedback earlier on the show from some of you listeners out there of like, why is the Marshal on the show? You know, what was the point of him? And I know we kind of questioned at the beginning, like, why are they wasting time with his storyline and telling his backstory and all that stuff? Well, this is why, people. It's because to set up season 2.
Yeah, and it was to set up this conflict that's going to happen between New Babylon wanting the methane power source and some battle between them and you know, the Croat and his group.
Yeah, the Barazzi and all that, and that it kind of plays into, you know, that book that the Dama was reading last week, which was, you know, the description of it was, it's about what happens when the European powers came to the New World and confronted the cultures that were already there, and the war that followed as they, you know, assimilated them. It's a great example, and the Croat even tells Negan that you know, like, the Dama had said this was going to happen, that there's going to be a, you know, they're going to come for us now. And because remember, he shows the badge, the Marshal's badge, and he's like, you're not afraid of the cops, and she's like, I'm afraid of the powers behind them, you know. So yeah, I mean, but that whole sequence with all of the, you know, the woman who, you know, has the cigar, and she, like you said, she knows his kids' names, and kind of gives this veiled threat of like, well, I should go stop over there sometime and tell them all about how brave their dad was, and he's just like, gulp.
Yeah.
But I mean, the whole, again, like I said, it's just setting up, laying down the groundwork for what the show is going to be season 2.
Season 2, yeah. I love too how she's like, I want you to tell me this story again. She like leans all the way in, and she's got this like little cigar, and she's like, I want you to now tell me everything again about the methane. And I'm like, that is not what I was expecting her to say. I figured that this, until she said the thing about methane, I was like, she's just gonna be like, I want you to tell me again the story, and don't lie about killing Negan.
Yeah, tell me what really happened. Yeah.
Right,
well,
right.
She does kind of say before that, that she has the cigar, and she kind of says the key is to keep the tobacco at a constant temperature of 90 degrees or whatever she said, and she goes, we use ethanol, but that requires miles and miles of cornfields. I want the methane, right? And so she's kind of setting it up that like they've obviously had heard about the Manhattan people have some kind of power source, and now they have direct evidence, and obviously they want to go get it. So she was menacing, but at the same time it was that was very cartoony.
Yeah, it was. But I thought that the one thing that I didn't get the first time through that made a lot more of an impact the second time I watched was when Pearlie is getting to the city limits. He's driving past some pretty big cornfields.
Oh, yeah.
And the first time around, I was like, that's weird. And then the second time I was like, oh, yeah. And then think about it. How do you, like, I live around cornfields. I watch them when harvest time comes, and I see the machines that they use that just, they pick up the corn, it shucks it, it puts the thing, you know what I mean? It does all these processes. They can't do that. They probably have to do all of that stuff by hand. Yeah. If anything, they might have some sort of like 1800s thing so they can sort of cut it all down, but everything else they're going to have to do is going to be all very manual. And she's right. It does take a lot of work today with machines to make ethanol. So I can't imagine how hard it must be for them to be making ethanol out of corn, especially during a time where it's like, hello, people need a food source as well. Right. And you've got all of this corn, but you're not using it for food. You're using it for energy. So it's interesting.
Yeah, he kind of Pearlie kind of starts talking about it when he's initially telling his story, when that scene picks up, and he says that when he got back across the river, he had enough ethanol in the truck to make it back to New Babylon. And he actually says ethanol.
Yes, he does.
So that's kind of the tip off of, oh, okay, so their society is, the power source that they're using, the energy source is ethanol. And you're right. There's kind of that weird moment which happened a lot on the main show and on all the shows that we get here, where you see a car driving down the road and the grass on the side of the road is short.
Yep.
Like, oh, that was recently mowed. But then a little, like a foot or two past that grass, you're right, there are these massive cornfields as far as you can see as he's driving by. And it's you get the sense that their whole structure is based on corn. And you're right, what are they feeding the people? What are they using to feed the animals that they obviously have to have, to have horses draw wagons, or milk cows or whatever, a lot of those things eat corn, and so how do you do that? And so it's all set up. It's all going to be, next season we'll learn more about New Babylon and what their structure is, and their attempted invasion of Manhattan, which of course is why Negan is supposed to be there anyway, is that he's the super genius that can defeat them.
Yeah, he is. We'll get to that scene with the Dama, but let's talk Maggie and Herschel first.
Sure.
We get two really great scenes with Maggie and Herschel. First, the one where I wanted to punch Herschel in the face.
The one when he was a petulant teen?
Yeah, yes. And I get he has an argument there. I agree. But your mom also just like came and saved you.
Mm-hmm.
So like his perspective is obviously that immature, I can only see the parts that happen that affect me the most and affect me emotionally. And it's just, he has that sort of stunted view of things that doesn't see the wider, bigger picture. Not that his feelings aren't valid, just he's not able to sort of take his feelings and sort of group them in with the greater good, the greater feelings, etc. Yeah. So he just ends up sounding like but I gotta say, the line of the whole scene has gotta be, oh, you got me a souvenir of my being kidnapped. Thanks.
Yeah.
After the hat exchange, and I'm like, yeah, that is kind of stupid. And at the time when she was like, Herschel used to wear a hat like this or whatever, and she puts it in her bag, and it's like, you don't think of it at the time, but then later when he points it out, and you're like, oh yeah, here, have this hat, so you'll always remember when you were taken captive.
It would have been better, I think, if the hat would have said, I got kidnapped in New York City and all I got was this stupid hat.
That would have been perfect. But she didn't have access to like one of those
a
like
cricket
stitchers.
Or something.
Yeah, something.
Right,
she couldn't do it. She's not like Maggie is many things. Not a good poker player, and also I haven't heard that she has good crafting skills.
Not yet.
But she has lots of other gifts.
She does. I did think though that when he had his little tirade that he did score some points there. He landed some of those shots about how she never really saw him. She was always looking over his shoulder looking for Negan.
Yes.
And again, like you said, it's only what he's aware of. And was that 100% true? No, but I'm sure it was true enough that Maggie was like, oh God, know. And what does she say at the end? Because then they kind of finish that scene in the truck and they're not in a good place.
No, not at all.
And then we get another scene with them when he's in his room and she comes in and she kind of says, something like, the thing with you're right, and my attitude was, I shouldn't have done the kind of things that I did. And then she says something like, I'm gonna, I'm the Negan thing, I'm gonna finish it. So he's not gonna be this force in my life that, basically, her whole life revolves around Negan ever since Glenn got killed.
Right.
And she basically is like, I'm gonna finish it with him once and for all. And you wonder, does that mean she's gonna go back and get him? Does that mean that she's gonna go and kill him? What exactly does that mean? But that is kind of the arrangement that they come to, and they seem to be better.
Yeah. I don't know. I like that, Maggie and Herschel seem better, but then when she finds those pictures, and like you said, is she gonna go save him? Is she gonna do whatever? She's just gonna continue with this whole like, I swear to you, my life doesn't revolve around Negan. And she's like, hang on, I'll be right back. I gotta go save Negan. So that's gonna, as much as like temporarily she and Herschel are kind of in a good place, I think that's about to go out the window unless she brings Herschel with her.
Yeah,
like, hey, maybe. Let's both go and save this man who has.
It can be a mother-son trip.
Yeah.
I found the line here. I knew I'd written it down somewhere. She says something like, I've been thinking about what you said, for a long time. For most of my life, I felt like the world kept taking and taking and kept taking. And I think at some point I thought that if I could just fight hard enough, I'd be able to get it back, a little piece of it at least. But it doesn't work that way because you just end up losing what you got, and I don't want to keep doing that anymore. I don't know how, but this thing with Negan, I'm going to finish it so that I can just let it go. So that's the last line Maggie has, and the last time we see her, second to last, because then she comes in and she's like making Herschel's bed, and she finds those drawings that he obviously did while he was in captivity, and
Right.
there's the really, really nice portrait of the Dama, and she's smiling, and it's very strange. And of course we're seeing that scene as the Dama is kind of having her little moment with Negan, and
Yes.
and that moment is happening as well. So
it's interesting because it's like as the Dama's being sort of revealed to Maggie in this picture, she's being revealed to Negan as who she is and what she really wants out of him at almost exactly the same time, which I thought was just, it was well done. I liked that. It was a very good sort of like through line thing. So let's talk about that Dama scene. I feel like he's not in control and he knows it, so he pushes every power play that he can. Take a seat. I got a bad thing on my leg.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay.
Brandy, I'm a gin man. You know, he's not gonna let her have the upper hand in anything until he realizes when he sees the toe, oh shit, I don't have any power in this moment right now at all.
Right.
There's nothing I can do. I can't charm this woman into letting me go or, not doing terrible things with me, that sort of like he had like a real stark realization once it became clear, and the things that she said too, where she's like, the way she puts it, she's like, I can always go back for more. And I'm like, more toes.
He got 9 more. He got 9 more, baby.
He do, and he may only need like a handful of them just for balance though.
I loved when they first start the conversation and she looks at Negan and she's like, I'm really pleased to finally meet you and find out that you're not just a product of someone's psychosis.
Yes. Yes. Because considering how the Croat is and how much he built up Negan, if you heard the stories about Negan, would you believe that he was who he said he was? Or that he existed at all? Is he some sort of snuffleupagus to the Croat?
Yeah, right. At the minimum, if he was a real person, he did half of the things that the Croat said he did, Yeah. And this is a Croat embellishing or just his, warped mind remembers it that way or whatever. Yeah, it was very much like, this guy you keep talking about, he's real, right?
Yeah.
He's a real person, But and I think too that clearly the Croat has told the Dama about Negan and about his love of children and, probably the story about getting his ear blown off. And so the Dama knows that's the button.
Yeah.
That's the leverage she has on Negan is, if we threaten a child, even the child of, this woman that wants him dead, it doesn't matter. That's the way to get to Negan.
But there's a lot of levels to Herschel too. He's a child. And maybe the mom wants him dead, but he kind of like Ginny feels this special bond with Herschel where he would do anything for him. It's the same way he felt about Judith. Right. Rick wanted him dead, but he would do anything to save Judith. Because he knows who these kids are is like innocent. They're not connected to their parents, So yeah, I thought it was great. I thought the Dama was in control, especially the way she dismissed the Croat. I mean, we knew from that previous scene from last episode that he doesn't have as much power as we thought he did. And in this scene, it's clear how much power the Dama has that she can just dismiss him like that. It was great.
she's just like, thank you, you can go.
Yeah, you can
And
go.
the Croat's like, but okay.
Yeah, because he knows he has no standing there. He can't
Right.
do anything. Yeah.
The whole scene with her was chilling in the way she handled it, and like you said, Negan's looking for his angle. How am I gonna get on top of the situation? How am I gonna get the upper hand? And
Right.
there's nowhere to go. She kind of outmaneuvers him at every turn. And I love when she is right at the beginning there, where she's like, I heard about your performance at the bank, the taunting, the joking, that extra bit but absolutely necessary pinch of gruesomeness, shock and awe, and all that. I thought that was a great line.
Yep.
And kind of buttering him up a little bit, and then kind of cutting to the chase about why he's there.
Mm-hmm.
And I also thought too that hey, there's a Dawn of the Dead Easter egg in that episode for all the crazy fans like me, when she hands him the key ring and she goes, the keys to the kingdom.
Oh yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool. I went, oh my God,
I mean,
the only person who got that.
The key ring was a lot smaller.
Oh yeah, it was.
But yeah.
But still, I thought that was kind of fun. But then the whole reveal on the toe, and then what her line was about, I kept a little piece of him and I can always go back for more. That it is interesting. One of the things that happens throughout this episode is you have people threatening other people to get what they want. And we see that with the new Babylonian douchebags on Pearly.
Yes.
And then we see it with Negan and the Croat as well, or the Doma as well. And it's just interesting that technique of, this is what we want to have happen, and you're going to help us, and you don't have any choice.
Right.
Because, and then they think that was real interesting. And then at the, like we were saying, at the same moment that revelation happens to Negan, where Negan realizes he's trapped, and he can't kill them all. He can't try and just run away and escape, because they'll just go after Herschel. And that's obviously the implication, right?
Of course,
but at the same moment, that's when Maggie finds all those pictures, and Maggie is kind of left with this, like, who is this woman that Herschel had not mentioned
right
at all, and what is their relationship? And then I started thinking, like, is this like a Stockholm syndrome? Did she, the Dama, did she kind of brainwash the kid? And he's kind of like pro Manhattan now. You know what I mean? Who knows, right? We don't. Yeah. We saw nothing of his captivity at all, other than that opening scene with the Croats. So I love that ending. Then when we get Negan and Maggie, and they both kind of they lift their heads and are looking into the camera, and you get that split screen where they match up their face. And they both have the same expression of, like, I have no idea how I'm going to get out of this.
Yeah, it's this. They are thinking almost the same things at the same time. It's great. Really well done. Wow. Yeah. The only other thing I wanted to talk about, too, was there was a line. I didn't write it down, but I was thinking of it while you were chatting, that I loved when the Dama said when he realized, like, the toe thing, he picked up the drink after saying, I'm a gin man, I'm a gin man, I'm a gin man. Yeah, right. And he took the brandy and he like downs it. Oh, and she's like, pace yourself. We got a lot to talk about. And I'm like,
make it last. Make it last. Because I mean, it's amazing, because she physically is a very unassuming person. Doesn't look menacing or powerful, or so, oh my God, I got to keep my eye on her, she's gonna kill me. But her voice and her mannerisms are extremely threatening and in charge, and she has that air of, I'm the boss, and I know I'm the boss, and everyone else knows I'm the boss. You know what I mean? And it's funny. I was thinking about it because here we have another a female villain,
Yes.
and I go back to our favorite show to rip on, the old Fear the Walking Dead, and
Yes.
we got the character of Virginia
Yep.
running, that group, and as implausible as that character was, the Dama is the opposite, where
Oh,
when
yeah.
I watch this show and I see the Dama, I'm like, oh yeah, she's in charge. I would see why people would follow her instructions and her commands, because she's scary as shit. I mean, she'll freaking kill you,
Yeah.
Whereas Virginia, you're like, why are any of these big martial guys following her orders at all?
Right.
She's a little, and I love the actor. I'm not saying it's not her fault. It's just like that character, the way it was written, just made no sense. Whereas this character, I totally bought it from the moment I met her. I'm like, uh-oh.
And she only had like this small scene, but it's like just a few lines and power dynamics and it's also about the actors too, like how Zako played those scenes. He was chastened, and the placement of that gal right outside the door when she called him a bitch, and I'm like, you immediately knew the power dynamic was very different as soon as he walked in that room. So you were already sort of off your game.
Yeah. I mean, you don't know what to expect, because you're like, whoa, that woman totally disrespected him.
Yes.
And we were led to believe he's the big bad.
Yeah. That's what we assumed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anything else that we should chat about before we, go ahead and take a quick break here?
and get to our hour of feedback?
Yeah. I'm looking through my stuff. I don't think I missed anything. I love the toe. We talked about the toe in the I Could Always Go Back for More. And then all I put at the end was bring on season 2.
Yeah. Yeah, my note was, sure looks like they're setting up for season 2.
Yeah.
So yeah. And so that I'm fine with it. I to be honest, I would have been just absolutely fine if this would have been a limited run miniseries and it had 6 episodes and that was it.
Yes.
I'd have been okay with it. I'm like, because part of me, I think, is the argument we've all had, which is, why would these two characters be together longer than that? I mean, they would have a very small window where they would work together to do something, but as soon as that something was completed, he's not gonna stick around her because she's gonna kill him, and she doesn't want to be around him anyway. So So if they would have ended it, I was fine. But I'm okay. I'm interested. I want to see a little more. I want to see what they're gonna do. So
I have to say, like, the whole the setting up the stuff with like the New Babylon people doesn't interest me as much, but I'm very interested to see the Dama in action, like how she came to be, how she is the person in charge. So I'm curious enough for that for season 2.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah.
Let's see. As far as other stuff, let's see. Oh, and by the way, Lisa Emery is the actor who played the Dama. So,
and apparently she was on Ozark, which I haven't watched yet, but apparently she's really great on that.
She is, yeah, she is. Ozark is one of those. It's an interesting show where everything that could go wrong for Jason Bateman does. But anyway, well, I know one thing I wanted to mention was when Maggie and Herschel are having their kind of fight in the car.
Yes.
And Herschel says all those hateful things to her. There's I thought a great scene where Maggie is kind of staring out the window, and we cut to what she's looking at, and it's a shot of Manhattan Island, across the river, and in right in front is the Statue of Liberty, and it has all these like holes in it where it's like falling apart, where the bronze is coming off of the mesh, that holds it all up, and it first of all, it's just a cool apocalyptic shot.
Oh, sure.
In general, in general. I mean, it's the kind of thing that all of people like us that love these kind of doomsday shows, that's what you want to see, is the, you know, the cities with all the destroyed buildings and, you know, the iconic, you know, image of the Statue of Liberty in anything, whether it's Planet of the Apes or the poster for Escape from New York or all that. You know, it's cool. We love it.
Yeah.
But for me, the way in my brain, I went to the idea of, it's like the Statue of Liberty. The way I looked at it was like the ideal of who Maggie was. The goody two shoes, you know, she's totally on the side of virtue, and yet there are all these holes in her now because of what we've learned has happened, and, you know, how she sold out Negan, how it was all a lie, how she was basically there to double cross him. You know, again, she's supposed to be the sympathetic character that would never do that stuff, and that there's So I saw all that, and I thought, wow, that's a really cool way to throw that at you if you see it, you know, if you pick up on it. And if you don't, it's just a cool sequence. So
yeah, it just looks good visually. Yeah.
And then after before they go in to see the Doma, so it's after they drive there, the Croat tells this great story about how they went. First of all, he says the river people, and my first thought was, you mean the people that we saw in The Walking Dead when, you know, Herschel was there, and Negan, when we first meet Negan and his wife, weren't they the river people, right? Remember that?
I think so, yeah.
You know, I'm wondering if it's the same ones. Maybe that's how we knew about them. I don't know, but
maybe.
The Croat tells the story about how Negan gave him Lucille to take out one of the people, because they, you know, this is like the second time they visited him. The first time told them everything they needed from them, and then they came back the second time when they didn't have it, and he gave Lucille to the Croat, and the Croat was so amped up he like missed the first time he swung, and then the second time he hit the guy so hard he thought he killed him, and he's telling the story, and Negan is just kind of staring and letting him tell the story. And I wrote down this one line, and the Croat goes, and then once his face was just a puddle on the ground, and I looked around and I saw what you told me I'd see, complete and total submission. And he's just like gleefully recalling this memory, and you know what you said before about JDM, you know, about Negan, and that Negan he's remembering it, but now that he sees how this guy's remembering it, he's like appalled. And like, oh my God, I cannot believe that I did that. You know, that was my thing. You know, and I thought that was a real cool moment. You know, between the two of them. We didn't mention it, but we find out that the Dino plushie lived.
Yay!
So she did not burn it like we thought, and she ends up. There's a scene where she walks into where Ginny's sleeping, and she kind of sets it down next to her. So Ginny will be all freaked out when she opens her eyes, and there's this, you know,
she's
stuff
like, ah!
Right? Yeah, right.
Maybe she'll say something.
Yeah, you know, she is a talker now. So
yeah.
I don't think there was anything else. Yeah, I think that's it. Again, I thought it was a good episode. I didn't think it was the best one of the 6, but I don't think there was an episode of the 6 that I'm like, well, that was bad. You know, I mean, they all were pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. I would say I liked all of them, and had a favorite, obviously, last episode, episode 5, like we talked about. But yeah, I thought it was a solid season. So like, still room for improvement. There's still some things that they could work on, but yeah, good season overall.
Yep, I agree.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead now and take a quick break, folks. And when we come back, we will discuss our listener feedback and what's coming up on the podcast.
So stick around, because we'll be right back.
Now there's about 20 of them out there.
What will we do?
Don't worry, we're safe in here. They'll never get in.
Why is it that in every zombie story, people always think that their safe haven is invulnerable?
I know. It's like, hello, the walkers are totally going to get in. You better get ready for it.
No! Diane, get behind me. No, it's not stopping.
Do something, Jack!
And another thing, how come nobody in a zombie story has ever seen a zombie story?
Do you know how much time in human life would be saved if just one person in the group was up on the genre?
What do we do?
Aim for the head.
What?
Aim for the head.
You heard them. Aim for the head.
Quick, Diane, I think we should try and fix the barricades.
I think we should listen to them.
Now, that's the first good idea they've had all episode.
I still don't think they're gonna make it.
Aim for the Head, a weekly podcast covering the hit AMC programs The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead. Join hosts Diana and Steve as they recap and discuss the latest episodes. Aim for the Head, available on iTunes. You can also follow them on Facebook.
Hey, this is Patricia Tallman, and you're listening to the Aim for the Head podcast with Diana and Steve. Don't forget to always aim for the head, because body shots just don't work, and I should know.
Hey everybody, we are back. We're going to go ahead and get started right in on our feedback that we received this week. I went first, I think, last week. So Steve, why don't you get started on the feedback and we'll go from there.
Alrighty, well, we start off and we're going to go to the international desk like we normally do, and we have an email from our pal Andy from Germany. Hello, Andy. How are you doing? And he is responding to the last week's podcast, which was the double for episodes 4 and 5. So this is what he is talking about here. So he starts off by saying, "Hi, Diana and Steve. That's the third thing I dislike about Negan. The other characters are ruined for him to work." So again, we have to remember Andy is not a member of the Negan fan club.
Yeah,
so.
not a fan of the Negan. Yeah.
No, not buying it. Not buying it at all. So he goes, "Maggie was a cool character as a second community leader next to Rick, with her own leading style contrasting his. Her role was trying to live up to the example her husband gave. After her return, she was reworked into an annoying bitch since her role now is to be worse than Negan. Okay. She is a liar while Negan doesn't lie. What Alpha could confirm if he wouldn't have cut her throat after telling her that her daughter Lydia is in the hut." Okay, I think that's Negan, right? Talking about that with Alpha. Okay, yeah. "I'm already eager to find out more about Mr. and he uses air quote honest good traits in the final episode," and he has the emoji face. He goes, "Until then, Andy from Germany." And then he goes, "P.S. As far as I remember, Simon destroyed Oceanside before Negan became the leader of the Saviors. This rules against killing kids is always retcon. When Benjamin is shot in the leg by the Savior Jared, his leader Gavin would have mentioned this rule as he reprimands him for it if it would have existed at this time." Yeah, that's true. That, the kids thing, it was certainly not on display in those Scott Gimple seasons of the Savior War with Negan, so other than with Carl, right? Carl kind of had immunity with Negan, even though he sneaks in the truck and then he kills some of the guys there. Negan just brings him back and is like, "Hey, here's your boy," but that he's the only one, right? I mean, it certainly wasn't a general rule for the Saviors.
I don't think so.
Like Andy points out. So that is a really good point, man. And again, since he is such a Negan lover, I understand why he would make it.
Yeah, I know. And it's funny too, like, I feel like his love of Carl, he sort of came into that because Carl was at the original lineup. And he was going to chop off Carl's hand to make Rick do something. Yeah. So it's interesting how he's been painted as this lover of children. I was gonna say, isn't that when he gives Rick the axe or the hatchet? Yeah, he wants Rick to do it. Now, obviously, a lot of that was about gaining some sort of control over Rick, for sure. But Carl still had to sit through it. Right? Yeah, that's true. That is very true. Whenever you do shows like this that are, creating the character of the Croat and trying to insert him into that existing show, you're going to have issues like this where it doesn't exactly line up because where was the Croat? Why did we never see him? You know what I mean? Why this whole thing about the kids? Why was that not more pronounced when we ran through this the first time? Well, because they didn't have it back then. This is what the new show guy and kind of the Angela Kang version of Negan
is introducing, right? So I mean, you're going to have these problems. You just kind of have to decide you're going to watch it and like it, or it's going to kill it for you entirely. So Andy, I hope you're at least enjoying the show, even if Negan is, kind of a douchebag to you and so forth. At least hopefully there's some other stuff in there that you like.
Yeah, I wonder. Let us know when you send in your final piece of feedback, because we'll include it on whatever the next thing is that we discuss. So listen for it. And I'm curious. I'm going to ask you directly. I wonder, are you interested enough to watch a second season? That's what I would wonder. Yeah,
exactly.
Curious. All right, but good points, very good points, especially about the kids and the retconning. I appreciate all of that. Good perspective.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks, Cindy.
All right. Thanks, man.
Next up, we're moving on to feedback exclusively for the finale for Dead City episode number 6. And first piece of feedback for that is we're continuing from the international desk, except now we are going to speak to our pal Bev, who's over in sunny England. Hello, Bev.
Hey, Bev.
And Bev writes in via the email and says to us, hello. Well, that all felt very quick. 6 episodes and we're at the end of the first season. It was an entertaining finale, more tension between Negan and Maggie, as the big guy begins to realize it's a trap. It's a trap.
It's a trap.
Can't not do it. I'm not sure why we had to have big fight sequence between them, though, as I'm sure if Maggie had explained the situation, Negan would have gone along quietly, which is what he said at the end of the fight sequence. He's like, we didn't have to do it this way. But I guess, then you don't have a great action scene and, but I get what you're saying, Bev. Absolutely.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. She continues on and says, Maggie got Herschel back without any fuss, but he still had the same bad attitude. I'm not sure how I feel about the moody teenager routine. My husband made the point that after all the death and destruction that these kids have seen, it would be unlikely for them to behave so stroppy. Oh, God, I love the Brits. Stroppy is just so... Anyway, maybe Herschel's just pissed that in a roundabout way, Negan is responsible for even more pain in his life. That is entirely possible.
Could be.
It looks like the evil theater lady has got one up on Negan, but will she live to regret it? It also looks like New Babylon and the theater group will be fighting each other for control over the new source of energy in season 2. They seem to be as bad as each other. The final shot of Negan and Maggie's faces seem to imply that the series' ethos is that no one is purely good or bad, and that those lines will become even more blurred next time around. That's a very interesting take, Bev. I like that.
Yep,
I
do too.
She continues and says, to end, I have 2 questions that I'm a little confused about. Number 1, is Maggie going off to kill or save Negan? I
had that question too. We brought it up when we were talking about our points.
I'm not sure it's clear.
No.
I'm not sure it's clear to Maggie what she's going to do. I think she knows that something's wrong and she might need to act, but I don't think she knows what her next step is. Maybe. I don't know. All right. So she also asked, number 2, what weird shit is going on between the theater lady and Herschel? Yeah.
We brought that up too.
Yeah. Did she turn him to the dark side, or does he have a drawing of her for a far more sinister reason? Right. What I do know for sure about this new show is that your coverage has been top-notch. Bev, that's so sweet.
That's so nice.
She says, looking forward to getting me some Daryl time soon. Bye for now, Bev, from windy, rainy, and sunny Devon, proper British summertime. A little bit of everything. I feel you.
Everything. Yeah.
I wonder, too, about the sinister lady, but the Dama, obviously, and Herschel. Because like she was saying, turn him to the dark side. If people have read the comic, they know Herschel doesn't turn out a good guy. Not really.
No. Yeah, right. Yeah.
So could we be trying to put Herschel down a path that would make him turn out in a similar way as an adult that he was supposed to in the comic, I wonder.
You have to think that there's got to be some influence there, but... we're so far away from the comic ending that I think it's just more of a coincidence here at this point that, since we really don't know what did happen. Like Bev said, is he, has he been brainwashed? Is he Stockholm syndrome?
Yeah.
Is he now a sleeper agent for them? We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen with him. So, but yeah, this is real interesting. That whatever happened. I mean, she posed for that picture.
Yeah.
Right. So clearly, they had enough of a relationship that he wanted to draw her. You know what I mean? It's just so, yeah, we got to see what's going to happen.
Yeah. But good points and very, very interesting questions, Bev. We look forward to talking about Daryl and getting your feedback when we start talking about Daryl. So, yay.
That's only about 5 weeks away. So,
5-ish weeks away. Yeah.
I think, So there you go. Not too long at all. All right.
Thanks for writing in, Bev.
Thank you, Bev. Love it. All right, moving on. We got an email from Amelia, from Pitney and Amelia. Hello. It's been a while.
I'm shaking my hands in the air. Yay! Because I have to describe it because you can't see me.
You're doing jazzy hands, aren't you?
I am doing jazzy hands.
Nice. Very nice. See, that theater background's finally paying off. All right, so Amelia says, "Hi guys, I know it's been forever, and I keep thinking I would write all these weeks of watching Dead City, but I kept never quite knowing what to say because was I liking it? Was I hating it? Was it fun? Was it just a waste of my time? I don't know. There's a lot of questions. Well, now I finished episode 6, and I'm so annoyed." And that's all in caps. She goes, "About halfway through, when Sheriff Goodcop was getting his attaboys, my husband paused it and said, 'Why am I getting the feeling this whole thing was just to set up a new series about his adventures in New Babylon?' And I was like, 'Oh, do you mean because we suddenly have a room full of new characters and they're listing his kids' names and we don't give a crap about any of this?' And it only got worse." Then she goes on to say, "I may have said, 'Oh, shut up, Maggie,' as many times during these 6 weeks as I did the last 6 seasons of The Walking Dead. I may have suggested that the kids playing Ginny and Herschel seem to be having a who can make the most expressionless face contest." But you know what? With Herschel, at least he has the defense of he was like being tortured, right? So he has something. Ginny was just, obviously on Prozac. I don't know. She goes on to say, "And yeah, I liked it visually. I liked the way some iconic New York City things were worked into the show, especially the turkey float from the Macy's parade." Yeah, agreed. That was really cool.
That was cool.
And some moments were pretty great, but all in all, I felt toyed with. Oh, that's interesting. She goes, "And the way this episode ended made me want to refuse to watch Le Daryl en France thing even more." She goes, "Screw that crap. I'm not their little puppet. I don't follow orders. I won't watch it until Carol gets into her magical dirigible and floats to Paris to open a boulangerie." A boulangerie.
Boulangerie, yeah.
Because at least that would make sense, she says in all caps. So I just love that we have to now, when we cover the show, we have to refer to it as Le Daryl en France.
Why would we call it anything else?
I know. I think that is obviously our new title for it. She goes, "But hey, I'm still flying on my Barbie high. Pitney and Mr. Amelia and I all saw it on my birthday. Awfully nice of them to release their movie on my birthday weekend." That is pretty cool. "So I won't let the manipulation of the Walking Dead people get me down." And she ends with a smiley face. And so first of all, Amelia, let me say happy birthday.
Yes, happy birthday. I was going to say the same thing.
That's awesome. And in the kind of our what's coming up next, I was going to bring up the idea of Barbenheimer and if people or is that really a thing people are going to do. But we'll talk about that later. But I'm glad you at least got to have something fun in your life and watch the Barbie movie. So good for you. And I'm sorry that this show apparently made you want to have like a Morgan Red moment. That's unfortunate.
It's unfortunate. But we're glad to hear from you. I'm glad that you were motivated to write in. We haven't heard from you in so long.
I know. It's so great. So thank you so much. And I'm sure we will get your very angry feedback about Le Daryl en France when it happens. So hopefully we'll hear from you then.
Yeah, please write to us about all the croissants and whether or not you liked them.
Yes.
Figure like mid-September-ish, You don't have to let us know about the premiere. Just, when you feel like you want to talk to us, you do it.
Nice.
Excellent. Thanks for writing in, Amelia. We always love hearing from you. Your emails are always so funny.
Yep.
Appreciate it. All right. Next up, we got an email from our pal of the podcast, Lisa Dupre. Hello.
Hey, Lisa.
Lisa. Geez, I just hit the microphone. Sorry, folks. That's not good for the ears. Lisa writes in via the email and says, Dear Diana and Steve, teenagers, man. That's a great opener, man.
Yep.
It's true. Thanks for coming to get me, Mom. How hard is that to say? Little punk. I'm sorry he lost his toe, but still, he was such a sweet little kid. I hope he lives long enough to regret being such a jerk. Maybe he and Ginny can form a Negan killed my dad then saved my life support group. There might be a lot of members to that support group.
There could be.
Yeah, I know. So she continues on and says, meanwhile, back in Manhattan, I've certainly spent my share of time sleeping in theaters when I had to, but is it too much for these people to get a headquarters with some beds in it? There are a lot of nice hotels in Midtown. I know the Dama needs a suitably melodramatic hang, but surely she could be just as dramatic and domineering in the Algonquin. She makes a good point.
She does.
The Croat has weird taste in paternal role models. I wonder if his actual parents liked him because being treated with contempt doesn't seem to be a deal breaker for him. I'm not sure what he sees in the Dama, but I'm sure finding her more interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing these other settlements she's got her eye on in the rest of Manhattan. Now that we know there's going to be a season 2, I hope there will be a little time spent on some fuller world building instead of what happened a lot in the past few weeks, i.e., here's an interesting person. Oh, never mind, they're dead.
Yeah.
And here's something I genuinely never thought I'd say. I feel sorry for Negan.
Oh, my God.
What? Sorry, that was my big gasp. She
Clutching
says,
the pearls.
Yes, I'm clutching mine, absolutely. She continues, like a lot of people, I thought he was headed down the path towards a noble sacrifice, himself for Maggie and Herschel. But this is just awful. He finally gets it. He's now completely aware of the damage he caused, not just to the individuals whose lives he's wrecked, but the large-scale damage done to this world by being a psychotic dictator. And now he's going to be forced back into it. And his motivation for reawakening the monster is the fact that he genuinely cares. So he doesn't even have the comfort of his own self-delusion to let him sleep at night. The look on his face when that sank in was heartbreaking. Now I'm really hoping Maggie rescues him. I'm looking forward to season 2. I'm not looking forward to how long of a wait we have because the studios haven't figured out yet that their entire business model requires writers and actors. Love and kisses, Lisa Dupre. That is correct. They haven't figured that out yet, but
they know that that's their business model. They just don't want to, pay them anything decent.
Yes.
They want them to work for basically nothing and have them get all the streaming money. So
pennies from heaven.
That's right. Hey, they get those actors get those commission checks or deposits of 2 or 3 cents every couple months, and if they can't live on that, that's they got to adjust their lifestyle, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, spend less money at Starbucks, okay? That's really what they're trying to say.
I think so. I think you're right.
Yeah.
But yeah, some really interesting points on Negan. I never thought I would hear Lisa Dupre say that she felt sorry for Negan.
No. I'm in shock, Lisa.
Oh,
I tell you.
That is crazy time. I mean,
It is. All right. Thanks for the email, though. We love it. Always love hearing from you, Lisa. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's very cool. All right. So moving along, our next bit, and this actually came via the Facebook, and it's from our pal Teresa Harper. Hello,
hey, Teresa.
How you doing? And she is much more positive than our last couple of folks, and she goes, I loved it. I gave this a 9 out of 10. I deducted a point because I wanted to see a variant walker this season. Oh, there you go. Wanted a climber or a door opener. Okay. The finale left the door open for so many possibilities. Is Maggie going to try and kill Negan? Has Herschel taken a walk over to the Dama dark side? Is Negan going back to his Lucille ways? Is the Croat going to be jealous of Dama and Negan's friendship? Is the Marshal going to be forced to go after Doma's group to get the Croat's invention? Is Doma going to take another little piggy to cry wee 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 all the way home? You never know. She goes, exciting any way you look at it. I can't wait for season 2. And yeah, you're right. I mean, there's so many plot possibilities here about what they've established and where could they go with this. So yeah. I'm kind of with you, Teresa. I'm excited. She goes on to say, thank you for covering this season of Dead City. It has been a pleasure listening. Aww. Nice. She goes, I appreciate you both. And then she put like 5 black hearts, and that's, I think that's for me and my cold dead one.
That's for you. That's your cold and dead inside. That's
very sweet. But thank you so much, Teresa. That's so cool.
Teresa, that's great. Thanks so much. Makes us feel great, and it's nice. Next up, we got some feedback via the Facebook from our pal Alma Contreras. Hello, Alma.
Hey, Alma, what's up?
Yeah, she wrote in and said, okay, I've watched it twice, and I'm still not sure how I feel about this season finale. And what was up with Herschel's toe gift?
Yeah.
Well, I hope...
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, you ladies first.
No, I was just going to say, I hope listening in helped shed, like, maybe some more light on the show, the season finale, the toe, all of it.
Yeah, I mean... I hope so too, but I was going to say about the toe, one thing that we didn't talk about and the show really did not go into much detail is Herschel did not seem to be in a hurry to tell Maggie that, oh, by the way, they cut off my toe.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so... at first glance, I think we when we watch this, we look at it as, oh my God, they tortured him and they cut off his toe. But the way Alma has phrased it and his attitude about the whole thing, you have to wonder, did the Dama, again, send him to the dark side or whatever some of the people have been saying, and be like, maybe she's just like, hey, could I cut off your toe? And he's like, yeah, go right ahead. I mean, we don't know, right? But it's just a weird idea that, maybe that was like, and it could be something even totally different. Like maybe the Dama said, if you want to get out of here, you have to give me a tribute, and I want one of your toes. And so he cut it off. I don't know. We have to see, but it's a really interesting question. And again, I'm not sure. Was it a gift? Was it torture? Was it a sacrifice? It's really interesting thoughts, Alma. I had not really considered that up till now. So that's super cool for bringing that up. Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't really think about it that way too. And also, when you think about the toe, first of all, I want to make sure it's clear that as soon as I said that out loud, when I said, I hope that this hot podcast helped with the finale and also the toe stuff, did we really think that we would be talking about the severed toe in this episode?
No.
You know what I mean? It's not an expected topic, really.
No. Not for this show, no.
I mean, I should know better by now, but still. I was going to say about the toe, I think it's also interesting because if Herschel doesn't say anything, but then Maggie finds out about it, like, what will the reaction be?
Right.
And will Maggie be the one that knows, or does Maggie leave and then maybe Ginny finds out about the toe? So they both go back to New York together. Because, now they're boyfriend, girlfriend, because, of course, that's happening.
I could see that, yeah.
Well, they're either boyfriend, girlfriend, or they're president and vice president of the Negan Killed My Dad Club.
Yeah, which I think we definitely have to start that. I think that definitely should be a club that should be in existence. So, yeah.
Herschel should be the president. I mean, for real.
Hey, he's not just a president. He's also a member.
He's also a client, yes.
Also a client, yes.
Alma, your like one-liner brought off so many questions and thoughts. So again, like I said, I hope that listening in this week cleared up some stuff about the finale. I hope you feel like I'm not sure I know everything about the toe. We've got some questions here.
There are definitely questions. Absolutely.
Yeah, lots of questions. But thanks for writing in. We always appreciate hearing from you. Look forward to hearing from you when we start covering Daryl Dixon. So
Daryl and La France.
So keep your French opinions coming to us once the time comes, please.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Moving on to our last piece of feedback, and this comes from Karen. I'm not related to Lauren Cohen, and this
Nice.
came via the Facebook. Hello, Karen. How are you?
Hey, Karen.
And I love it because her first point is something that I had brought up, and she does it just as funny as I did, which is great. She goes, "Wow, getting across that river seems like no big thing in this show." I agree. It's just like they didn't have time. Look, Karen, they're just like, it's sorry, they're across. It's just like,
no time. You're there.
You're there. Then she goes on to say, wow, pretty high Santa hopes. Yeah, Maggie did like Santa was gonna like replace and fix all of her broken and lost toys. What Santa ever did that?
Yeah. Yeah. That's not a real thing.
No, not a real thing at all. But anyway, that's funny. And then she goes, Ginny doesn't have a home. Why didn't he just take her to New Babylon? I don't know why we even need that character, except that, like I said last week, now her and Herschel are in the same place and will probably be a thing. You just said that.
You
just said that. And also, you're right, Karen, we kind of touched on it too. If she's the daughter of a magistrate in the New Babylon, why didn't the marshal just take her back to New Babylon?
True.
You'd think she has to have some family there, maybe, or at least, that's where she's from. I mean, that's everybody she knows. You'd think she'd want to go back there, but whatever. It is what it is. She goes on to say, I thought they were setting up Maggie's fear of heights, but this seemed fine. Yeah, that's true. She was really afraid of the zip line, but she had no problem running on the roof right up to the edge and looking down. Or getting up on that little ledge and trying to fight Negan. She didn't have any problems, but whatever. It is what it is. Then she goes, wow, Negan landed with the superhero pose when he jumped. Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Pretty big knife stab and no blood. I agree. There was something that should have happened. Yep. And then she goes, I miss young, sweet Herschel. So does Lisa. Sure, he's mad and missing a toe, but teens. Ugh. Glad I don't have to hate watch season 2. And I agree. I think we're going to be excited for season 2 because there was a lot of promise in this first season. So some really funny points, Karen. Thanks for writing in. It's always great to hear from you and your perspective on things. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Hope to hear from you again soon, especially about La France.
La France.
Please write in about La France. Ha. All right. So coming up on the podcast, we have no idea.
That's right. We don't.
Yeah. We've got some things sort of cooking. We've got some thoughts and some ideas, but we haven't solidified anything yet. So
I think the only thing we know for sure is that we're going to take next week off.
Yes, for sure.
I think that is probably the only given we have at this point is we're like, yeah, let's take a break. Okay.
Yeah, we'll take a little bit of a break. We will definitely be covering Daryl, and we'll also be, unfortunately, covering Fear the Walking Dead when they come back. And they are going to be back to back. So once we do come back for Daryl and do Fear the Walking Dead, we'll be going straight through till probably looks like it's going to time out right around Thanksgiving, so a couple of months. So we're going to lean into a little bit of this break between Dead City and Daryl Dixon, but we're still going to produce a couple of things, and we're still sort of weighing out what those things are, like what you guys would be interested in seeing and hearing from us, and frankly, what kind of stuff do we want to talk about. So we've got some thoughts.
Yeah, we do. Absolutely. Yeah. We're batting around a few ideas. We'll pick something.
Yeah, so stay tuned and keep your eyes on the Facebook page and the Twitters, and we will go ahead and let you know once we sort of solidify something a little bit more. Cool. But in the meantime, in this past week, San Diego Comic-Con was this past weekend. So with that, there's a lot of media blitz for newer projects that start hitting the internet. We got a really nice, more of a long-form Daryl Dixon trailer. Way more details, way more people. And if you haven't seen it yet, it's pretty cool. Gives you a little bit more of the plot of what's going to happen when he gets there. So if you don't want to know what he gets up to when he's there, maybe don't watch it. There was one line that I thought was really good when he said he's from America. And they're like, well, how'd you get here? And he goes, a series of bad decisions. And I'm like, okay, well, there you go. That's I mean,
hey,
you can't quibble with that.
That's I think we can all we've had moments like that where it's like, how did you get to your current situation? Yeah, just a series of very, very poor life choices.
Yeah, I mean, mine didn't get me on a boat that floated all the way across the Atlantic Ocean to France. But listen, people have different levels of bad days and poor decisions.
That's true.
So
absolutely,
how do I know what kind of poor decisions Daryl Dixon would make? I don't.
Right.
But we're going to find out starting on September the 10th. So come along with us. We are definitely going to be covering that show. And again, the trailer, pretty cool. Again, Fear the Walking Dead is coming back for its final portion in October. That's October the 22nd. And also, spoilers. If you don't want to know about it, they did confirm that, stop listening now. They did confirm that Troy is coming back. So obviously being hit. Yeah, obviously Troy can't be killed by a hammer or Otto was a popular enough character that they felt like resurrecting him from the dead was a fantastic idea.
I'm
I'm so sorry. That was sarcasm.
It didn't land that way. No,
I'm sorry. Hit by a hammer and then a deluge of an exploded dam. And he's survived, but now it's like 10 years later, and he's going to try and find Madison and terrorize her. Is everybody caught up? Because that's
it's like you said before. It's like it's way too late to do this.
Yes.
And I really think the reaction of anyone that's still going to watch the show is going to be, who is this again?
Yeah. And here's the thing that sucks too, is if they had done this correctly and done this like a couple of seasons ago, it might have been much more engaging, because I really liked Daniel Sharman and I liked Troy. I thought that was I thought him paired with Madison was a really great combination. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that it's compelling anymore. Right. No. Which is a shame.
Not the way that they're going to handle it, which will be poorly.
Not at all.
So, yeah.
Not at all. So yeah. So I have like a very like who cares feeling about it, because who cares?
Yeah, it's going to be 6 episodes. We're going to power through it, and that's it.
Ugh. Anyway, so the best thing that sort of came out of San Diego Comic-Con is 2 really big things about Rick and Michonne. There was a really nice teaser trailer, lots of red in it. It's very, very cool. If you haven't seen it, it's a good teaser. It doesn't reveal a lot. There's just a lot of images of Michonne, and a lot of images of Rick, like separately. And it doesn't reveal anything major. I guess if you slowed it down and looked at it frame by frame, maybe. But just as an overall sense of, I'm really excited to see them again, it does that for you. But what's even better is they, much like these other spinoffs, they have decided on a title. And this show will be known as The Ones Who Live. And
there goes plot armor.
Yeah. And I'm not going to lie, I actually like it. I think it's really cool. Because I think Rick and Michonne is, dumb. You're already calling the other show after the character, so Daryl Dixon.
Right.
I'm not sure how I like Dead City, but I guess now that we know that the city runs on the dead, we kind of gives it a little bit more, makes more sense.
Yeah.
But I think The Ones Who Live is probably out of all of these, it's the best title they've come up with so far. I think it's really cool. Yeah. And I read it and I was like, oh, that's actually pretty good.
Well done. Well played.
Worked for me, so I don't know if it'll work for everybody, but I think it's really cool. Michonne was by far my favorite character on the main series. I was so sad when Denai left the show. And I'm so, so, so happy to see her playing this role again. I know lots of people are very into Rick, and people love Daryl, and they love Negan and Maggie. But for me, like all of these spinoffs, I cannot wait to have Michonne in my life again. I'm so excited. That's what I have to say about that.
Me too.
Yeah. Really, nothing else to report? You got anything else that we should chat about before we wrap things up for this week?
Just, Barbenheimer.
The Barbenheimer.
You got Barbie and Oppenheimer, and apparently this is a thing of like people are going and seeing both of them at the same day.
That's a lot, man. That's a lot.
Well, Oppenheimer's like 3.5 hours long, and Barbie's over 2. So yeah, it's just. But this is causing debate over which one do you see first. Do you see the light, happy Barbie movie and then the really dark, depressing Oppenheimer, or do you see the dark, depressing Oppenheimer and then kind of cleanse your palate and get in a better mood by watching? I don't know. I don't know what to say. Just that I want to see both of them, but I honestly think I'm not gonna see both of them on the same day because that's crazy. So what about you?
Me neither. I'm not as excited. I'm so excited that everybody went and saw Barbie, and from what I've understand, universally, pretty much everyone I know that has seen it has loved it. So I'm very happy for them. On the surface, the movie was never something I was interested in seeing. I feel like people's reactions and what they've said about it have made it a much more palatable movie, but I'm still like, I'll have to find the right place and time because I'm not sure about, spending movie theater prices to see something that I'm not as like super excited about. Now, Oppenheimer, I'm very excited about. I do want to see in the movie theater because I think it'll be much more magnificent on the big screen. Oh, yeah. So I think I'm definitely going to see that first. But when that happens, I don't know because, dude, 3 hours.
Yeah, but everyone says that it's like Robert Downey's best performance, and there's going to be Oscar nominations up the wazoo. And
I agree. I have heard a lot of that too. So and I'm very, very excited to see it in the theater. I'm not sure when that's going to happen. I mean, dude, you got to see Mission Impossible in the theater too.
There you go. Yeah, but
that is 3 hours as well.
I know, and that's only part 1. Because there's a part 2 coming next year. But if we're going back to Oppenheimer, are you going to see it in like IMAX or 70 millimeter?
No, probably not.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You just reserve that for the Dune screenings then.
Yeah, Dune will most definitely be on the IMAX screen. Yes.
Okay.
For sure.
I just thought I'd check because that's the Music Box, which is a place that you and I frequent quite a bit because they show lots of great older movies. They right now have a 70 millimeter print of Oppenheimer. It opened last week, and they literally have lines out the door down the street of people wanting to see it. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to see it in the theater. I think a 70 mil print would be amazing. I have no desire to sit on Music Box's seats for 3 hours to watch a movie. Oh my God, because it's an old school theater with like the old flippy downy. Like not super comfy seats.
No, not stadium. Yeah. There's no cup holders.
No. There's nothing. And I'm okay with no cup holders. I'm okay with not reclining. That's fine. But those seats. Whew. Yeah, my butt was not made for seats like those. So, but yeah, I know I got to see it soon though, because I don't know. It's popular right now, but things these days move out of the theater a lot quicker than they used to. Because they want to get stuff to streaming a lot faster. So so I don't know. But I'll get there. I will get there. So
cool. Very good.
All right. Well, everybody else, let us know how you are seeing Barbie and Oppenheimer, the Barbenheimer, as it were.
Barbenheimer, as it is now known.
Yeah. So we're curious to see what your thoughts are on that. But that's going to do it for us this week, everybody. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. And like we said, we will let you know when we're going to be recording next, what we're going to be recording on. You guys will be in the know for sure. But until then, as always, I'm Diana.
And I'm Steve.
And don't forget to always aim for the head.
Because those body shots, they just don't work. To send us an email, write us at aimfortheheadpodcast@gmail.com. And our Twitter handle is @AFTH Podcast. Pictures and video are always welcome at our Instagram account, Aim for the Head Podcast, all one word. But the best way to keep in touch with us is to just like our Facebook page to get all of our updates in your feed.
And now I'm like, oh my God, my bladder can only hold so much.
Crap, I gotta pee. Yeah. Hurry up.
Oh my God. Yeah. Woo, that was
All right.
was not good. And now that I've recorded all of that, because I hit the I'm recording button, jeez Louise.
Nice. It'll live forever.